Hello and welcome to New Filmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker magazine. My name is Danny DeLillo and I'm here with Daniel Watkins with his movies. Sometimes friends come over and sometimes we're alone. Let's take a look at a clip.
I don't know, she picked me up from school early that day, which was really weird because, well, anytime I would like say I was sick at school or something, she would just, she hated that.
Daniel, thank you very much for being here and congratulations on your film.
Thank you, thank you for having me.
For those that haven't seen your film, tell us a brief synopsis.
Sure, it's just about two people living in an apartment, slowly alienating the people around them and each other. Mm-hmm. It's just about two people who shouldn't be together that insist on staying together.
Mm-hmm. Well, I loved it because I feel like every single person in the world that's ever been in a relationship could possibly relate to your film. You know, maybe they've been in a relationship with someone they shouldn't be in, but you know, they love each other, or there's something that's there. You're very intriguing title. Sometimes friends come over and sometimes we're alone. I think I may have even said that myself in my life. What I loved about it is you took a real close eye on this couple, and almost like I felt like I was in the room with them, and you just captured elements of it, which, as I said, like sometimes they move too fast in these films. You don't always get a chance to really feel what you just seen on the screen, and you kind of left us in the moment, which I absolutely loved. Where did the inspiration come for you in creating this particular story?
Well, I mean, narratively, the specifics of the story come from a few different couples that I've known in my life. Mm-hmm. There's a little bit of autobiographical material in it, not too much. It's very, very different from my own domestic life. But yeah, I think we've all known people that you've sat in the back seat of their car and watched them drive and fight with each other. Yeah. And you're just sort of an unwilling participant in their domestic life, their domestic anger. And that's sort of what I wanted to do with the camera work, is make the camera this unwilling participant. Yeah. Where it's just sort of, it's moving with them, so it does suggest another thing in the room. It's not a static camera. Mm-hmm. So, and it is on my shoulder the whole time. So, yeah, I wanted you to feel like you were an unwilling participant in their relationship.
You did do that. I've just realized you completely manipulated me when I watched that, because I was watching it and I thought, I don't feel comfortable I felt like I was like sitting there with them in the bed, kind of like, I really shouldn't be here right now while they're about to argue over red wine or whatever it may be. And that was really nice. And I think sometimes we don't really go deep enough to sort of feel. So you definitely felt that with me in how you were operating with the camera. Now, what's interesting about this couple that you obviously cast this film is they are actually a couple as well. How did that come about, the casting process, and how did it come about telling them, well, you're going to kind of hate each other in this film, but how did that work out for you?
Stephen and Allison are very brave people, I will say. I met Stephen first through a friend, and he sort of suggested that Allison would be good for the role, and I was very hesitant because I didn't want to put an actual couple in a situation like that where they would be fighting with each other, they would be abusing one another emotionally on camera. I will say they were very supportive of one another on set. There was a little bit of method where they would stay sort of standoffish to one another when we weren't rolling, but I would always see little moments where they would check in with each other and they would say, like, are you okay? Are you okay? And like, yeah, we're okay, we're just acting. And I was like, and then there were moments even when I was rolling the camera where I was just like, do we need to take a minute? We can take a minute. And they're just such pros. They were just like, no, we got this. We're fine. We're actors. We're acting. Like, I was like, this is beautiful. This is great.
I think you really gave from what you were saying at the Q&A last night for the event, what's also so wonderful as well is that you kind of gave your actors the freedom to really express themselves and to, you know, just go along, and you kept rolling so that they could kind of almost discover new things or new emotions within the context of the script and what was going on in that moment. Is that kind of your style, or is that something important to you for this particular film?
I think filmmaking can very easily become boring, at least for me, when you have too much control over the situation. when you have everything planned out and storyboarded and you know exactly what beats you're going to hit in every shot and you know how you're going to put it together in the end, for me, it is not very exciting. Being on set is probably the most enjoyable process of the making for me. So I thought a way to be challenging to myself and to the actors was to sort of remove my ego from the filmmaking process and just sort of set a scene in motion. And there was never a moment where I adjusted the action to the camera. It was always adjusting the camera to the action. So I wanted to give them the freedom and in a sense make it a true like collaboration.
Yeah.
We are building this together. Like calling myself the writer-director is a little much. I feel like I wrote a script for it and then treated it sort of like a jazz score where you can kind of improvise around it.
Oh, I love that, like a jazz score. That's very cool.
Yeah. And so, and then they did beautifully. They got from A to B, and how they got there was sort of their own choosing.
Yeah.
Blocking, dialogue, that sort of thing.
Wonderful. No, well, it's great that you got that free, because I'm sure you captured moments from doing that which enabled them to kind of feel free in what they were doing and their work they were doing. It was great. They had a great dynamic together as well. I mean, there was sort of certain elements that you touched upon in there which I thought was very interesting, certainly political climate of where we're at right now as well. And then also just kind of where sometimes people can just be stuck, you know, in their worlds and their lives, and there's influences of alcohol and all those kind of things. Was it kind of purpose for you when you were writing it that there was sort of elements of stuff that was happening currently today, and also just people that are going through stuff and may not be in the right situation together?
Yeah, I think we've entered a phase where we're in this sort of resting anxiety, at least for a certain, like half of America.
Yeah.
Where we just kind of wake up every morning with this sort of like, oh, what's going to happen today?
Yeah.
Sort of thing. And so I wanted to sort of have that be the subtext of the film, this resting anxiety. Some of it is self-induced through maybe what you might call a casual alcoholism, if such a thing exists. And also they're dealing with their own sort of obscured, abstract bodily ailments, which are very ill-defined in the film for that reason, because I also think it's a film about a couple keeping secrets from one another.
Yeah.
So I did shoot scenes that explain everything, and then just slowly started to remove each one, because it's like I'm revealing too much. This has to be.
Oh, I love that.
This has to be sort of ambiguous.
Yeah.
And that ambiguity, I imagine, can be frustrating for an audience occasionally, but it's like it's important for me to withhold things as they are withholding things.
No, I love that though, because it just kept me wanting more as well, and wanted to find out more, and that intrigueness about that. What was I mean, let's just say, firstly, Daniel made an independent film. I'm sure it wasn't a multi-million-dollar budget that you had to get fixed upon for this. How do you go and create an independent feature film, and what was the biggest challenge for you in making that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was very lucky to have a network of very creative, talented people whom I could pull from, and who were ready and willing to help me in exchange for working on their projects, that sort of thing. So, I mean, making an independent feature it sounds like a daunting thing, and it can be. I think it's more possible the more you start to embrace a DIY ethos, taking stock of the resources you have, which in my case was a decent amount of technology, which again, lucky to have. And I know not everyone does have that, but everyone has something. I think we're approaching, as technology becomes more and more accessible, this sort of democratization of filmmaking, which is great because it is the most economically viable artistic medium in the world. And to make something like that accessible to more people, I think, opens up the possibility for more voices to be heard. Yeah. And people can now see the screen as something they can project on rather than being projected to.
I like that, yeah, very much so.
And so I think I completely skewed the question.
No, that was very important to share.
Yeah, what was the specifics? I think I was supposed to answer something.
No, I think, what was the biggest challenge you had in facing this project?
The biggest challenge was trying to make this over the course of weekends while you're working full time.
Yeah.
Like, there were, I mean, without revealing too much of where I got the tech to make the film.
Yeah.
There were moments where I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to get a camera today. I really hope this happens because I have to shoot in 2 hours. So, and it's like, I didn't want to spend any money to do that because I was already paying the talent.
Yeah.
And that was most important to me because I didn't really want anyone to work for free because I think that's kind of wrong.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll work for free, of course, and I will get everything else for free. And hopefully the stars align and that works out. So making the film on a full-time budget, or on a full-time work schedule, and
making a movie.
Making a movie with free resources.
But that
was the biggest challenge.
I think that's a really important thing to share. I think one thing, I think that's really wonderful that you pay the talent, you know, for independent film, because a lot of people don't always do that, and that's very, you know, it's very nice of you to say, you know, I'm exempting myself from this as well. But I think most people, you know, seem to think this sort of magical power happens. You make an independent feature, and you're like, you know what? I worked really hard. I put in the schedule, and I managed to make it happen against all odds. And I think that's very commendable for you as a filmmaker to make that happen and produce that. Which, you know, leads me on. What is that feeling like after creating this project and, you know, putting it out there and then having it at NewFilmmakers LA on the big screen for an audience to see? What is that feeling like after, you know, achieving that?
I mean, it was very humbling. Like the first time I showed it to anyone and they said they liked it, it was a very emotional thing for me. And this was just privately. I screened it for a few people. And I was like, I almost cried. It was like, I'm not embarrassed to admit that.
Yeah.
It was just like, this was so much work. It really means a lot. And then I have this mentality of like, well, now I just need to move on to the next thing. I can't dwell on this. It's like, it was great and it was beautiful and it was very humbling. And again, thank you to NewFilmmakers for screening.
Oh, thank you.
But
it's a good feeling, isn't it?
It was a great feeling, emotional, and now I'm like, but now I have to keep moving.
Yeah, so very important. What are you moving on to next?
So I'm working on. I come from an experimental background, abstract experimental film. So I kind of want to get back into that pool a little bit, and I've been working on an experimental landscape film about the victims of the Hillside Strangler, which were Hillside Stranglers, rather. There were two serial killers that prowled Los Angeles. And murdered several people. And,
it's a different genre now, isn't it? You're moving to a different realm.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think murder is kind of having a moment, which is a weird thing to say.
Yeah,
there's
sadly,
sort of a true crime boom.
Yeah.
We're all listening to murder podcasts and watching Netflix shows about murder. So I guess it's just sort of been in the back of my mind for a while.
Yeah.
Well, I got it from my mom. She's serial killer obsessed. So.
It's in the family. There you go. What piece of advice have you learned as a filmmaker, or something that you can share yourself that you would give to other filmmakers here today?
Well, it's sort of what I touched on before, like take stock of your resources and DIY. Like learn how to do every tech job on set if you can.
Yeah.
Learn how to record sound. Definitely learn a craft.
Yes.
I think a lot of film school graduates, specifically, they come out of film school focusing all of their attention on writing or directing. And I think those are great skills to have, and certainly worthy of that learning, taking the time to learn that.
Yeah.
But I think also learn how to use a camera, learn how to record things.
Yes.
Learn how to edit.
Yes, exactly.
Because those will get you jobs.
Yes, and you also appreciate all of those roles. Everyone that, you know, for everyone that's involved in film, you're all there to you know, to work on it together and create it together. I mean, you couldn't do it without anybody, could you? It's real important. Well, Daniel, thank you very much. Do it yourself, people. You heard it here from Daniel, and thank you very much for your movie, and looking forward to seeing much more of your work, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Awesome.